Hey guys, I'm going to bring you my Frodo Commander deck today. So with my Frodo Commander deck, it plays like Voltron, and the whole purpose of the deck is to go for commander damage. So with this deck, I play one commander, Frodo Determined Hero, MVP, 3 planeswalkers, only 2 sorcery, 8 enchantment, 8 instants, 20 creatures, and 26 artifacts. We'll save the artifacts for last because they are the most important key to this deck. So, Frodo, that's his effect. And this guy, like I say, you play him, you get a free equip artifact. He loves to attack, and when he attacks, he can't die for the most part. And when you attack with him, you can attach an additional equip spell. So this card is just really good with Voltron. Like I think you'd be hard pressed to find a better Voltron commander than Frodo Determined Hero. So that's enough about him. Let's go ahead and move to the Planeswalkers. They'll be the simplest thing to go over. So we play 3 Planeswalkers. Nahiri the Lithomancer, the Wandering Emperor, and Archangel Elspeth. So Nahiri is great for creating creatures, equipping artifacts, but of the 3, she's actually probably my least favorite, just because of that 1 extra cost, and I just feel she's a bit slower. Wandering Emperor is probably my favorite. It's nice to be able to flash her in and being able to get some abilities off and surprise your opponent. And then Elspeth is just a commander I like a lot. I like being able to create tokens because sometimes you just need more creatures. And I really like her -2 ability to give creatures flying, because this deck doesn't have a lot of flying. And sometimes it's nice to be able to fly over the head and get that 21 damage in there. So now we'll go to the next easiest part. We only play our 2 sorceries. Wrath of God, our 1 board wipe in the entire deck. White doesn't have a lot of options for board wipes, but that's White's best option. And then Steelshapers Gift. Nice one-off for any equipment spell in the deck is really good. Now I'll cover the 8 enchantments in the deck. We'll open up with Authority of the Councils. This card's good because it slows the tempo down for your opponent, and you get 1 life each turn, which is pretty nice. Flowering with the White Tree. That +2/+1 and that Ward 1 is nice for Frodo. Plus, a lot of the creatures you play in this deck are legendary, so they'll get a nice little bonus. Grasp of Fate, I mean, it's removal. If I was going to rank my 5 bottom cards in there, Grasp of Fate would probably be one of them. But it does what it needs to. Sigarda's 8 is nice. Being able to cast spells with flash and having equipment cards attach when they enter the battlefield is nice, because you're not always going to have Frodo on the field, because Frodo, that's your heart of the deck. People are going to want to keep that off the board. So you got to be prepared that sometimes you're just not going to be able to get your bonuses when you want them to. Next, we have Smothering Tithe. Probably the most commonly played card in White. It's a great card to run. You need to generate more mana so you can get some of your bigger combo pieces off. Leyline of Sancity, it's good against some decks. It doesn't really do a whole lot for me. It's sometimes you're glad you have it, sometimes you're just like, why do I have this? Land Tax, great card. Great card for ramping up your mana, because this deck doesn't have a whole lot of ramp, but that's one of your main ramp pieces. And then Forge Anew, it's an enchantment. It does a pretty decent effect. But I'd probably put this in my bottom 5 as well. Next, I'm going to cover the lands. So we have 23 basic plains, and 9 special lands. So I'll go ahead and get into those. We have Inventors Fair. With you're playing an artifact deck. You got like 26 artifacts in here. You are going to get that extra life a lot, and then the ability to pretty much search for any artifact is nice. War Room is nice because sometimes you just need an extra card or two to get a leg up on the competition. Reliquary Tower, I mean, it's probably one of the most heavily played lands in every deck just because, like, who doesn't want an unlimited hand size? Then we have Crystal Vein. Sometimes you just want to have that extra mana, and plus so many cards in this deck are colorless, so the extra colorless mana does come in handy sometimes. Maze of Ith, great defensive card. Fabled Passage, nice to thin your deck by 1 card. Arcane Lighthouse, take away Shroud and Hexproof. Buried Rune, sometimes it's nice to go through and grab any artifact that was destroyed. And the most expensive card in the deck, Nythos. Just this card is good for monocolored decks, and you play a lot of white in here, so it's nice to have it. And then after that, we just have our 23 planes. So we'll just set those there, and now we'll get into the instants. Now your instants are pretty much your aces in the hole. They are what's going to extend your game a lot. They're what's going to give you your interaction so you can stay in a... And they're very defensive. I love them. They're great. Everybody Lives, great defensive spell. Settle the Wreckage, that's a great defensive card. Stroke of Midnight, I mean, I like being able to blow up people's stuff and give them a 1/1. So, good destruction there. Teferi's Protection, one of my favorite cards in this deck. This card has saved me so many times where people are about to go for the win, and I'm just like, not quite. I got one more turn still. So sometimes just giving that one extra turn can give you that one extra hit you need to just take out your opponent. Generous Gift, fantastic card. I like being able to destroy people's Cabal coffers, their Urborg, Tomb of Yawgmoth, you name it. Like, I can target anything. I can blow up their really expensive lands and really slow their tempo down. Swords to Plowshares, that's just a white staple. Path to Exile, same thing as Swords to Plowshares. And last instant is Reprieve. And sometimes it's nice just to get something off the field for a turn and get a card to replace it. Alright, next I will go ahead and cover our 20 creatures. So, SRAM is nice. I mean, cast an equipment spell, draw a card, that's pretty solid. Aowen, I can't tell you how many times Aowen helps Frodo out. Giving him first strike and vigilance makes Frodo a threat really quickly. Then we have Oswald Fiddlebender, Magical Tinkering. Being able to pretty much grab any artifact you want out of your deck for 1 more is pretty good, because we have a lot that are 1, 2, 3, and 4. Avid Mind Sensor, that's a nice little hand trap, as I like to call it. And just people go, I want to search. Oh, no, just have your top 4. That's messed up a lot of people's plans. Esper Sentinel, really good card. Gives you some draw power and really can make people waste a lot of mana just to prevent you from drawing. This is an MVP of the deck. Mondra the Diplomat. I mean, people are pretty much going to start playing 2 spells per turn, so that's going to be... You're going to plus off this at least once or twice. Lauren of the Third Path, great card. Good removal. Good draw engine. And has vigilance, so there's just a lot of good things going on around with her. Armored Sky Hunter, I mean, it's a good card. I would probably put that in my bottom 5 as well. just because there have been a lot of times I don't get the effect since I just get really unlucky. This is one of my favorite cards in the deck. Being able to stop your opponent from interrupting you on your turn is nice. And being able to generate an army of colorless soldiers can also be nice. Like, she's a great card. And I really like having her on my side. Stoneforge Mystic, another one of my favorite cards. Good tutor. And just all around good card. Weathered Wayfarer, this has gotten me out of a lot of tight spots. There have been a lot of games I've opened up with just a land or two, and this card just keeps me in the game, and I can search for my better lands. This is a good card. I like this card a lot. It's just a little slow, but it's a great card. This is another one of my favorite cards. Serra Ascendant, like, it doesn't always happen, but if you open up with a Serra Ascendant, you're dropping a 6/6 with flying and lifelink turn 1. People are a little intimidated by that. Brass Squire, it's a good, decent card. This is a great card in the deck, the Puresteel Paladin. Metalcraft is an amazing ability. Then we have Drannith Magistrate, probably the saltiest, maybe the second saltiest card in the deck behind Smothering Tithe. People hate this card. People hate not being able to play their commanders in Commander, but that's what I like about this deck. This deck frustrates, and it gets in there. Lion Sash, that's a good card. I use it quite a bit to beef up Frodo. Cavalier of Dawn, once again, kind of like a built-in generous gift, and then you also can grab an artifact or enchantment card, and it's a creature, which this deck plays 20 creatures, which is a fair amount. But sometimes you like having a nice beat stick, and this is on its own probably the best creature card in the deck. Then we have Archivist of Oghma. This card's pretty nice. And last creature in the deck, Alms Collector. The flash is nice, and I've had times where people play cards like recycle their hand, and this is a nice little interrupt that just goes, no bleach, just draw a card. So you can really punish your opponent with this card. I love this card. This card is great. And that covers everything now but our 26 artifacts. So I'm going to go through those, and those are definitely the bread and butter of the deck because it's Voltron. So we'll open up with Robe of Stars. Good defensive card. I like this card a lot. When you start getting your Sigarda's 8 out there to keep things, to speed up your equipments, this can really save you on a lot of occasions where your opponent might think they have you. Swift Foot Boots, Hexproof is just amazing, and Haste. Like, I would say this is probably one of my favorite artifacts in the deck. Sword of Snow and Steel, protection from black and red, and destroying a planeswalker or an artifact. That's really good. The Quidditch Spike, Death Touch. If it gets in, opponent loses half their life. That's pretty nice. This can be a really good card. You can really beef up Frodo and make him a real threat. I mean, I've had so many times where this card drops, people are like, oh shoot, Frodo's a problem, we have to kill him. Mithril Coat. So one thing I love about this deck is just the Lord of the Rings theme about the deck, so I just love Lord of the Rings cards. And considering Frodo actually won the movie, hey, it's a great card. Bloodforged Battle Axe, another really cheap equipment spell. Wedding Ring, great card. Great card. Shadow Spear, just great card. If you run Voltron, well, you run this card. Sword of the Animist, great card. I like getting lands. I like getting +1/+1s. Godsend, that's a good card. It's a nice boost, and it's it can be nice when... It can just be nice for taking out creatures and really controlling the tempo of the game. This is probably my least favorite equipment spell in the entire deck. Like, it's a good card. It just seems there are so many times where I just can't get another creature on the board besides Frodo. And so then its other ability does not come that good. Enduril Flame of the West. That's a good card. +3/+1. I'm getting 2 1/1 white spirit creature tokens of flying. That's really good. Nettle Cyst. Great card. I love playing this card. Throne of Eldraine. Well, it's a monocolored deck, so Throne of Eldraine fits pretty well in here, and I like being able to go... I like being able to tap for 4 white mana every turn, and then if I get a little pinch I need cards, well, this gets me cards. Conqueror's Flail, that's a nice card. It's basically another Morel. This is the only card in the deck besides Elspeth that gives creatures flying, so that's nice. Sting. I love Sting. It's yet again a Lord of the Rings card. And a lot of people just tend to forget that when they go to attack you, oh look, my Frodo untaps, and now I can block and potentially take out some of your creatures, which, granted, his effect for the protection doesn't work on their turn, but still, you might have your Frodo pretty well souped up, where they're just like, oh shoot, maybe I shouldn't have done that. Lotharian Blade, more Lord of the Rings cards, and I like that this card can just take out a lot of threats without really having to actually battle them. It just can take them out. This map, there's not a lot of ramp in this deck, but this is one of them, and just being able to grab 2 planes, that can be really nice sometimes. Sword of Vengeance, great card. There's not much that gives haste, but that's one of them. And this card really helps boost Frodo. Sword of Fortune Frontier, another great equipment spell. I've had a lot of games where this just speeds the game up. I can just start dropping more mana more quickly. And just, you never know what you're going to mill off the top of the deck. That's why I like a lot of my lower costing cards in this deck, so I can profit more off the Sword of Fortune Frontier. And then with my Smothering Tithe, if I have a nice little reserve, it's nice to have that. Hammer of Nazhan. This is a card that is definitely on the lower end in my book. I would probably put in my bottom 5. Like, I used to love it, but just Indestructible doesn't do as much for me as it did before. The instant equip is nice, but the upfront 4 and the equip 4, like, granted, you're running a lot of cards that can get around that cost, but sometimes you're like, man, that can be a bit much. Bilbo's Ring. This is a great MVP card. Yet again, another card that's Lord of the Rings themed, but this card can really get that Frodo in there. Like, you put a couple of other equipment spells like Blackblade Reforged or Fire Shrieker. It's like, this can be game ending very quickly. And yeah, like I just mentioned, Fire Shrieker, getting double strike, great card. And last but not least, every deck runs it, Soul Ring. So that's the deck. That's all 100 of them. This was my first Commander deck. I've been running it for over a year. There's been a few changes to it, but I would say for the lion's share of it, it's pretty much remained the same. The whole deck strategies remain the same. It's like, here, beef up Frodo, get him in there. And overall, I would rate this deck probably a 7 out of 10 as far as power goes. But I'm telling you, a very heavy disadvantage of this deck is people do not like losing by commander damage. So I've had a lot of people who will target me just because they don't want to lose by that. So that's the deck. And the last thing I want to bring up while I have you here is to just do a little bit of promoting for this book that was actually released just last month, technically. It was July 30th. We're in August, so technically it's last month. But this book was written by my uncle, and it's a story that's very dear to my heart because it is actually about my grandfather who fought in the Korean War. So I will provide a link in the description if you want to check it out, but this is a story about my grandfather's time in Korea, so if you like reading about war stories or want to read about him, well, this is his story, and I will show the back of it really quick. But yeah, I hope you enjoyed the deck. I hope that if you had any questions about Voltron or any directions you were thinking about taking it, that this video helped you. And the next Magic video deck I'm going to probably release will be my Queen Marchesa deck. So when that comes in, I'll show you what I think about that deck. All right, well, have a good one. Bye.